Well, Kansas is not the only people casting ballots last night, with the upcoming midterm election picture a little clearer following a number of primaries on Tuesday. Voters from Arizona, Michigan, Missouri, and Washington joined Kansas in casting their ballots. While former President Trump played a role, we're not sure of the full impact because some races remain undecided.
John Gibbs, and I'm running for Congress.
Newcomer John Gibbs defeated Michigan Republican incumbent Peter Meijer, one of 10 Republicans who voted to impeach Donald Trump, and becomes the second to lose a primary.
Thank you, Michigan.
The Trump impact was widespread. His pick for Michigan Governor Tudor Dixon will take on incumbent Democrat Gretchen Whitmer. Former Missouri Governor Eric Greitens, plagued by multiple scandals, lost his Senate primary bid to the state's Attorney General Eric Schmidt. Prior to the voting, Trump released a statement endorsing Eric with no further information.
Arizona has sent a message.
But Trump may have had the biggest impact in Arizona. He backed GOP Senate candidate Blake Masters, who won his primary and will take on Democrat Mark Kelly in the fall. Arizona House Speaker Rusty Bowers lost his primary following his testimony before the January 6th committee, outlining how he resisted pressure to alter the outcome of the 2020 election.
Did anyone provide you with evidence of election fraud sufficient to affect the outcome of the presidential election in Arizona?
No one provided me ever such evidence.
Trump-backed Mark Finchem won the GOP primary for Arizona's Secretary of State's office after attending the January 6 rally and embracing decertifying the 2020 election. And in perhaps the country's most watched governor's race, the race remains too close to call. Trump endorsed former television news anchor Kari Lake, while his former Vice President Mike Pence backed businesswoman Karen Taylor Robson. Both women felt confident while the votes were being tallied.
We have every right to celebrate tonight because when these votes are tallied, we will come out the victor. We will take back Arizona.
Keep calm, keep the faith, and keep us in your prayers. Because at the end of the day, we're going to win this thing. Thank you.
Here with us now is Nathan Gonzalez, editor and publisher of Inside Elections. Nathan, thanks so much for joining us tonight. We have a lot to unpack from these primary results. Now let's start with Arizona, where the race there is still too close to call, with Trump-backed Kari Lake holding on to a razor-thin lead there. Are you surprised by the results we've seen so far in Arizona?
Not particularly. I mean, Kari Lake had the advantage in the pre-election polling, so the fact that she's currently leading as votes are still being tabulated isn't a surprise. I think that if she indeed goes on to win the nomination, it makes things a little bit more complicated and maybe more difficult for Republicans to hold on to that governorship. Because Kari Lake has been very strident in some of her views, and goes farther than what maybe a majority of Arizonans might be. But it's going to be a competitive race. What I think is ironic about this race is that last night, Karen Taylor Robson, the other major candidate, was actually leading in votes that had been tabulated up to that point. But yet, as more election day votes were counted over last night, then Kari Lake pulled into the lead. And if that had been different, I think we would have been hearing some of the same stuff about the election being somehow illegitimate just because votes were counted while it's dark instead of when it's daylight.
And still a lot more votes to count there in Maricopa County. Well, Nathan, it seems like every primary is a litmus test over former President Trump's role in the Republican Party. Arizona is looking like it might go all in for Trump. Do you think that is an accurate picture of where the rest of the country is at?
Well, I think this is still Trump's Republican Party. I mean, he still has an influence where we're seeing around the country that his primary isn't the most important, isn't the only factor in a race, but it is important and can be influential, particularly if it's a crowded field. I don't think we've seen the same level. If Kari Lake wins the gubernatorial nomination, I don't know if we've seen in another state where sort of up and down all of the offices, we've seen a resounding victory or an entire slate of pro-Trump candidates win. But, Trump is still influential and is going to be a factor in these elections.
Mm-hmm. Now, Nathan, I want to ask you about Michigan. Tudor Dixon's win was a clear win for a Trump-backed candidate, even after what was an incredibly messy primary there. Can the pro-life Dixon defeat incumbent Democratic Governor Gretchen Whitmer come November?
Yeah, it's certainly possible. I mean, Joe Biden narrowly won Michigan in 2020, and we're seeing that independent voters have shifted away. Voters that went for Biden are now uncomfortable or dissatisfied with the direction of the country, the direction of the economy, and so that sets up a Republican well. I think Michigan is going to be a key place, though, to see, how focused are voters on the economy, the direction of the state, direction of the country, and how focused are they on abortion and access to abortion, and do they think that some Republicans are too extreme? This is where those Kansas results come into play, where a majority of voters aren't comfortable with abortion at all stages of a pregnancy, but majority of Americans are comfortable with some access in that first trimester. And so this will be a high-profile race.
And Nathan, quickly, let's finish with Missouri here, with the Senate seat there, where Eric Schmidt defeated the former governor over there, Eric Greitens. But hours before the primary, the former president endorsed just Eric, leaving off of a last name. Can Trump claim that as a win?
I mean, he can. It's just sort of silly, Matt. I mean, it's just, first of all, endorsing a candidate the day before the primary, I'm not sure how much influence that really has. And trying to have it both ways and sort of bet on two horses in a race, it's just, the former president's going to do what he's going to do. But this really didn't have an impact on this race. What had an impact was, with a few weeks left in the race, an outside group spent millions of dollars attacking former Governor Eric Greitens, and that pushed him from first place to third place, which is where he ended up finishing.
Well, Nathan, thank you so much. Here at Faith Nation, we're always going to endorse Nathan Gonzalez. Thank you so much for your time.
Appreciate it.